Hello, One Talk. Welcome to the Unicorn Emprise podcast, the podcast for PNG entrepreneurs earning between 0 to 1 million plus kina in revenue who want financial clarity, business structure, and tax confidence. I'm your host, Vanessa Gaeta, a PNG registered public accountant, owner of Hello Taxman, my accounting business, a CPA, and a content creator here in Papua New Guinea. In today's episode, I will be sharing with you 4 of the most impactful skills that have brought me this far in the 4 years of existence for my business, my accounting business, Hello Taxman. And this is because at the time of this recording, I have hit 4 years in business. And I wanted to share with you these 4 skills because I know from my own experience that a lot of business owners starting out struggle with these 4 skills, especially if you are thinking of doing business from the comfort of your home, like me, online. And that is using social media and the internet to make money. And no, this is not about monetizing Facebook or YouTube or stuff like that. It is about actually providing a product or service and using those social media platforms to attract customers. And of course, using the internet to deliver. So tech, leveraging tech. My business, my accounting business, Hello Taxman, is a small business, micro to small business. I've done this from home as a full-time mother with 2 kids. They were a newborn and 2 years old when I started. And at the 4-year mark, I've got 1 still at home with me to start school next year, and 1 is in prep. So let's hit it. The number 1 most impactful skill, emotional awareness and regulation. And this is because when I started out, I was scared to show up on social media. If you know me from my past, I was a shy, reserved girl. Like I wouldn't come out and just show up on social media, especially not to talk about my profession or my career, anything like that. This is now business that I need to put out in public to get customers. So that was very, very, very scary to me. And the most scariest place for me to show up on was LinkedIn. And thus comes the skill. I've learned over the first couple of years of having kids that I lacked emotional awareness. I mean, I felt the feelings, but I didn't look into them long enough to get to a place where I could regulate. Yeah. So with this story of showing up on LinkedIn, I can still remember really cringing and like literally crying over the fact that I'm going to post this logo of my company on LinkedIn and have a page going and start posting content around that. Look, I have a company. The skill that I've developed over the 4 years is to recognize this fear, this feeling, this emotion, this resistance to do something I know I have to do, but I feel scared to do it. And naming the emotion, I am scared. And then the hardest part is recognizing why, getting to that root cause. And for LinkedIn, I realized that I didn't want to show up on LinkedIn because I was scared of what my ex-colleagues would say. So my ex-colleagues are people in the Big 4 accounting industry that I was in before I did this, before I left to have my kids. And then eventually I started this business, this small business of mine. So they were my, of course, bosses and ex-workmates. But you know what I realized? That they probably don't follow. They don't care what you're doing, what I'm doing. So yeah, most people don't care. Like, yeah, 1 or 2 might make a comment here and there, but like, whatever. This is my dream. This is what's going to be putting money in my pocket now that I don't have a job. So I pushed through that fear and got on the other side. So now, these days, 4 years later, I do not give a second thought about posting on LinkedIn. I'm not scared about it because I've managed to push through. And it turned out that LinkedIn is my number 1 lead generation platform. So I get my most qualified, most serious leads or signups the most from LinkedIn. So yeah, that is an example of the biggest, most impactful skill in business building that I've garnered over the past 4 years. And it's an ongoing practice because we all feel scared at any one point in our lives daily. Okay, let's go to skill number 2 is e-commerce skills. Of course, this is a skill set, not really one skill, but it ties back to this thing about fear. I feared showing up on video on social media. Like I was doing like graphics from Canva in 2021 when I started, like no video. It came to a point that I knew I had to go on video. It was especially after we took this e-commerce course. I was fortunate enough to be in a group with other Papua New Guineans, Australians, New Zealanders, the Pacific Islanders. And end of 22 into early 23, we did a course. It was called back then Kahao e-commerce program. And we had to show up on social media every single day talking about our product or service. And that made me break through that fear. Not really break through, but navigate through and get past the initial like cringe resistance. Got past that and started showing up on video on social media. But the other skill that I'm not telling you before that, that happened right before we had to do all that daily social media appearance on video, was that I took a communications course with Vin Jiang. His course was just really, really life-changing for me personally because he went through the psychology of how to communicate to attract customers. So that really gave me that foundation to show up from, that purpose. I'm someone who needs to understand the principles in order for me to really go hard 200% into whatever I am doing. So e-commerce skills was that. The other thing they taught us in the e-commerce course was building a Shopify shop to sell your service and of course to systemize an e-commerce business. Okay, that was e-commerce skills. So skill number 3 was and still is offer creation and sales skills. Going back to number 1, I had fear about creating and selling online courses because I've never seen this done in PNG to Papua New Guineans back then when the idea popped up in early 2022. Right now, it's becoming popular, like more and more people know what an online course is. But when I started out, like I was asking the few bunch of people around me and they're like, what's an online course? So it made me scared to put out an online course. But I did it anyway, as usual, like you had to try it to see if it works. So I used my e-commerce skills to use Relay Courses to put out a free online course in July. And I had people signing up. I was also scared to advertise for it. I was like, I've never marketed online before. No one knew me. But I've gathered a little following. And when I put it out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and people signed up. 4 years later, there's around 300 people signed up on the free course. So that brought me to launch my next course, a paid one, which was around 300 kina. And yep, people signed up in the first launch. Second launch, people signed up. And I got through that and I now know that it works. So right now in year 4, I have not launched again because I want to reiterate the courses. That is, improve them from the lessons that I have learned in the past. And that should work again because it's now a rinse and repeat process. Which brings us into the skill number 4, systemization and structural building of the business. Now, again, I'm not a big business. I have not done this full time. This has been a part-time job because of the kids and my motherhood responsibilities. So it is very much still a micro to small revenue generation business. But because I've hit 6 figures over the years, this is my milestone to know that I've done something that works. And whatever I've done can now be repeated and delegated to a team. So I can systemize whatever I've been doing that's worked and start building a small team around it so I can grow and then scale hopefully in the future. that's where we are in year 4, which is the 2024 to 2025 year. So yes, I have gotten a few team members on board. And in terms of systemization, I have written out my business model canvas in Notion. So I use a lot of tech tools in my business because I am an online business. I use Asana systematically to organize my to-do lists and workflows in my life, like my entire life, not just the business, but also my personal life. What else do I use to systemize? Of course, Relay Courses will be the tool that I build my courses on. I use QuickBooks Online currently for my accounting. It's all about experiencing it and then going from there with the experience that you have on hand. And yeah, I think this brings us to the end of the episode where I have shared with you the 4 most impactful skills so far in my accounting business that have brought me to 6 figures and to a place where I am now building a team to grow this business so that I don't have to be the one sitting there doing the work all the time. So those 4 skills, to recap, was number 1, emotional awareness and regulation skills. Number 2 was e-commerce skills. Number 3 was offer creation and sales skills. And number 4 is systemization/structure/team building skills. Okay, One Talk Emtasol for this episode. I'm your host, Vanessa Gaeta. Join me again next time on the Unicorn Emprise podcast to gain financial clarity, build business structure, and become a tax-confident entrepreneur in Papua New Guinea.